Hi, I'm Ken Oakes with Oakes Daylilies. One of the traits in daylilies that we get asked about a lot is rebloom. It's a real popular trait. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what rebloom is and what you can do to get more of it, and some of our favorite rebloomers. So stay tuned. So what is rebloom? Now, as you probably know about daylilies, they bloom in the summer, and most varieties bloom for about 3 to 4 or 5 weeks. It's kind of their peak normal bloom season. And rebloom, as the word implies, means to bloom again. Now, we find rebloom in a couple different ways it expresses itself. Sometimes it will bloom and then kind of bloom again right away. So it's kind of a continuous rebloom. The variety I'm going to show you is one that does that. And then others are going to bloom and then bloom again later in the summer. I'm going to talk about one called Stella d'Oro later, and it's more like that. They'll bloom, take a break, bloom again, take a break. But both of those things kind of get lumped into the rebloom category. And that's kind of what it means, blooms and then blooms again. So I just wanted to show you like an example on this is the variety whatchamacallit. And you can see, you know, these are the first blooms of the season, right? And if you look down in here, here's a scape that will be blooming here in a week or two, right? And so this is going to be what we call rebloom. And probably if we come back in here in a few days, I can see one over here, you can't really see it, but see half the size of this one. So bloom and then bloom again, and then bloom again after that. So that's rebloom, and this is the way it happens on whatchamacallit. Rebloom is a great trait, but there are some limitations. So I'm going to tell you about those. First off, typically on rebloom, daylilies don't get as many blooms as the first time around. So their first initial bloom cycle, they'll have lots of blooms, lots of buds, and on rebloom, they're just not going to have quite as many. The second thing would be there aren't all of the colors available in really good rebloomers. Most of the best really good rebloomers are gold and yellow, and so you're going to limit yourself if you only select varieties that are really great rebloomers. Now there are some others in other colors as well, but you know, if you say, hey, I'm only going to plant great rebloomers, you're going to leave out a lot of really gorgeous stuff. So that's a limitation there. And then thirdly, it depends on where you live, how much rebloom you have the opportunity to get. Naturally, the folks who live down south, they've got a much longer bloom season. You know, their bloom season may start in April, so they've got all the way through until, you know, whenever it gets cold down there, October, November even perhaps, that they could have the opportunity to get rebloom. So a much longer season than folks up north where your first bloom isn't until, say, late June, early July. You just have a lot shorter season available for rebloom, so you got less opportunity for it. All right, so here's some tips for getting more rebloom in your garden. Now, obviously the first one is to select varieties that are listed as rebloomers, and all that information is listed with every variety on our website. And you can search for rebloom and it'll list all the ones that are listed as rebloomers. And in particular, we have a section, our 20 top rebloomers, and so that'd be a good place to start. Those are ones that we found that really are kind of reliable rebloomers, so that'd be a good place to start, 20 top rebloomers. And I'll put the link to that below, so I would check that out. So that'd be the first thing, select things that have been listed as rebloomers. Then the second thing you can do is make sure your garden gets plenty of water. That's probably the best thing you can do for everything related to daylilies. Make sure they get plenty of water. You'll have more blooms, the blooms will just look better, and then you'll get more rebloom if you give them plenty of water. You know, spring all the way through the bloom season and then on through summer into fall. Plenty of water will be the best thing you can do to encourage more rebloom. And then, you know, for northern growers in particular, you might select varieties that are listed as early bloomers and also rebloomers, because again, you know, if it blooms early in the season, it's going to give it more time to come back around and rebloom again. Coincidentally, you're in luck, because a lot of the best rebloomers are also early bloomers, which is probably not a coincidence. That just gives them more time. But so you got a lot of choice there, but that may be something to think about. If it's a late season bloomer and a rebloomer, well, you may not have as much opportunity for rebloom on those. So there's 3 tips to get more rebloom in your garden. We went out into the growing fields this morning and picked blooms of some of the varieties that are some of our best rebloomers. It's early June when we're shooting this, so it's pretty early in our season. So we shot a video last week on some of the earliest daylilies to bloom for us, and so if you watch that video, you may see some familiar faces in here. But these are early bloomers and also really good rebloomers, so these are some good choices. We'll just start here with this one. It's called Stella d'Oro. And this is probably the most famous daylily, most commonly planted. In our area, at least, it's planted in a lot of commercial landscapes around town. I see daylilies everywhere I go, so that's what I pay attention to. And so I see this one all over town and I notice it. But it's use because it's such a nice bright gold color, about 18 to 24 inches tall, and it is really a good rebloomer. It'll bloom, typically takes a break, and then it'll bloom off and on again, maybe 2 or 3 more times until frost even in our area. So that's Stella d'Oro. This is one called Happy Returns, and it's very similar in stature and plant habit to the Stella d'Oro, except it's a light yellow. So that's another option there, in a different color, but has a really good rebloom, about 18 to 24 inches tall. And then I'll point out another small yellow one here. This is called Bitsy, and kind of like that dark there on the back of the petal and the dark stems there, if you can see that. This gives it kind of a neat look in the landscape. But this is a really good rebloomer. And this one, I have a good friend out in California who grows daylilies, and this is one of his favorites because it blooms and blooms. I think he said it bloomed 300 days one year for him. Of course, that's Southern California, but most places may not get that, but still a really good rebloomer for him. So great for the landscape. That's Bitsy. This is a totally different look. This is called Snickle Fritz. And this is what's known as a double daylily. You can see it's got the puff in the middle there, the extra petals. So that's a double daylily is what they call those. And it's a really good rebloomer in a near white. And let's see, last one in this face, this is called Frankly Scarlet. Nice deep red. This is another one that my friend in Southern California really recommends. Does well for him out there. And the good thing about this one is it really it may get a little bit lighter as the day gets on, lighter red, but it kind of intensifies the color. So it's a really nice color all day long. It's in the morning as we're shooting this, and you come back later, it may be more of a, I guess just a brighter red. So it kind of intensifies the color through the day. So this is Frankly Scarlet. All right, so this is Rosy Returns. Which, I mentioned Happy Returns in the last phase. They're probably related. This is sort of a dusky rose pink. Again, a good rebloomer, kind of an unusual color in rebloom. And behind it is Stella's Ruffled Fingers. And of course, in the first vase, we had Stella d'Oro. So I'm just guessing that this has, Stella d'Oro perhaps in the parentage. And it's a light pink rebloomer. And again, there's not many in this color category that are good rebloomers. So that's Stella's Ruffled Fingers. And this is Adena Blizzard. We broke the petal carrying it over here, but really like this one. That's a nice cream near white. If you don't put it up against something true white, this is going to look white in your garden. Adena Blizzard, and a really good rebloomer. And then the last one in this vase, this is Buttered Popcorn. Nice big bloom and a really good rebloomer. Maybe not as good as the small flowers, but for a large flower, this is a great rebloomer. And this color really shows up well in the garden. Lots of blooms. This is an all-American selection for good reason. So Buttered Popcorn is a great choice for the garden. All right, and the last vase, you might recognize this orange one in here. This is whatchamacallit. We talked about that earlier in the video. And then this one here, this is Dewy Sweet. This is another double daylily, like Snickle Fritz that we talked about a minute ago. You see the extra petals in the middle. This is sort of an off-white, sort of an ivory color with a purple center to it. I just point out, look at all these buds coming up on that one. You can see, this is today's bloom, that would be tomorrow, and then on and on. So, daylilies are named that because each bloom just lasts for a day, but all these buds, they're going to bloom day after day. And so Dewy Sweet in particular has a lot of blooms on it, really good bloomer. A couple more in this vase. This is Miss Amelia, another near white. This one may be a little more yellow than the Adena Blizzard, but again, if you don't put it up against anything that's actually white, it's going to look near white in your garden, and it's a good rebloomer. And then the last one I've got in here, this is Adena Imposter. You may recognize the Adena part from Adena Blizzard. The fellow who hybridized these is onto something with the rebloom because he's got several really good rebloomers. Adena Inferno, is another one I didn't pick today. But this is purple in the center. It's called an eye zone, in case I hadn't mentioned that. It really makes that pop. And then look at that little purple edge there. I really like that one. So that's Adena Imposter. So I hope you've enjoyed this video on the reblooming in daylilies. We shot a video a couple weeks ago about landscaping a bed. It talks about planning your bed with earlies, lates, and rebloomers. So this incorporates the rebloom idea into that one in case you want to check it out. We've grown daylilies for over 40 years, so we love talking about all things daylilies. If you have any questions or comments, be sure and put them below, or our contact information is on the website. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.